G'day ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another Bitcoin update. The reason I'm making this video today is because CPI is releasing, that's the inflation data in the United States of America, in exactly 24 hours by the time I'm recording this video, maybe 23 hours by the time it gets out. So that is major volatility, right? That's what it is. Major volatility will come. CPI release, 24 hours. The consensus for CPI, right? This is what the market is expecting, is 5%. Now, the previous month was also 5%. So the market is actually expecting no movement in CPI. The market is expecting CPI to remain exactly the same as what it was last month, which is interesting, right? And the reason it's interesting is because this could be a result of the printing that occurred during the bank bailouts, right? Around 6 months of QT was reversed, estimated by a few people. 6 months of QT was reversed during the bank bailouts due to the amount of money the Federal Reserve and basically the US economy had to spend in order to get those banks out of trouble. And so perhaps that could be a reason why this, is catching up in the inflation numbers. We've seen massive decreases in inflation, in CPI in the previous months. I mean, in February, we had, a consensus of 6%. We saw the actual come in at 6.6%. That was a 0.4% decrease. In March, we had 5.2% consensus. It came in at 5%. That was a 0.8% decrease. And now all of a sudden, it's just rounding out after massively, coming downwards. It's just rounding out. Now we're expecting an even inflation rate, which is interesting. And, look, could be a result of those bank bailouts. Who knows? It's hard to say. Generally speaking, inflation's not something that happens instantly. It takes a while for everything to get going and work through. And so for it to be reflected in CPI so quickly does seem slightly abnormal. Perhaps it's due to other external factors. But, overall, that's what we're expecting, 5% inflation. That's what the market's expecting. And as you guys know, it doesn't really matter what the actual number is in terms of the charts. What actually matters is whether that number is higher or lower than the expected number. So if the inflation number comes in higher than 5%, that's actually bearish for the markets. If it comes in at lower than 5%, that's actually bullish for the markets. And so, looking at the charts now, we can see that this CPI reading is going to be very, very important because the charts are in a very important place. And I know people say that all the time. Oh, look, guys, the charts are so important right now. But they really, really are. There's something going on in the charts right now. It's something that everyone really needs to look into, right? Because we have seen a massive, massive uptrend. Okay, there's no doubt about it. We've seen a huge uptrend from the lows from November. It's 6 months of upwards price action here, and we've come all the way upwards to the doorstep of that 30k region. We're struggling now to get above it. We're knocking on the doorstep, but we're forming bearish structures as we do so. We've got an M pattern here. If we go to the 4-hourly chart, we can see that illustrated quite closely. Double top formation, that M pattern there. And even looking closer, we've got a diagonal resistance line, multiple diagonal resistance lines facing strong resistance here. And if we flip to the weekly chart on Bitcoin, in fact, we can make a duplicate chart here and we can bring up the weekly chart and show you exactly what's happening. One of the previous levels that was very, very, very important, which was 28.6k, and you'll see it in just a second here. 28.6k held us up throughout the entire bull market in 2021. And we're just seeing it kind of lose relevance. We're seeing multiple, it's a yellow line there, by the way, multiple closes up and down, above it and below it. And it's just overall just losing the definitive strength it had in the past, which is not ideal. When you're doing that at the top of an uptrend, a potential top of an uptrend, it's not what you really want to see. So as of right now, I've said it over and over and over again. I'm not going to repeat myself too much. I think the Bitcoin is facing a few threats in the short term. I don't think those threats are very likely to materialize into long-term downwards price action. I think that overall long-term Bitcoin still looks good. It's still following the 4-year cycle theory. Some of the threats we're facing is the fact that gold did see a strong rejection from its long-term yellow resistance line, also facing a very strong resistance box. I think the gold will eventually head upwards. It's just a matter of when. As of right now, it is in a bearish ascending channel formation, so that's not particularly ideal from a TA perspective. And the DXY is doing the same thing, right? DXY is reverse correlated to Bitcoin. If this thing goes up, Bitcoin goes down. As of right now, it's pretty strongly holding support on this 101 level, and it's bottomed out there 2 separate times in the past. It's very possible that it could bottom out there again and break upwards, which would be bad for Bitcoin. So a few things to look at, that are worrying, and including the weekly chart. And I'm not going to, sit here and lie to you. There's no point doing that. I don't think that the short-term, medium-term looks particularly promising right now. I think there are a few threats we need to monitor. But overall, I'd also be lying to you if I said there was any confirmed movement in the short-term, medium-term. Just because it doesn't look strong doesn't mean it's confirmed. There's nothing confirmed yet. And the reason why is because, we had this pennant formation in yellow. We broke to the downside. But overall, we are still very much on Bitcoin in a larger pennant formation. It's very hard to tell exactly where it stems from, but we can very easily see this uptrending pink support line. And so with that known, and also with the fact that we've got very, very, very strong support still, right? Right down here, bull market support band, supporting that major green support box. We've got very strong support. We've got massive foundations for a healthy correction, the bounce to the upside. So I'm not willing to say in the slightest at this point. I don't think it's even slightly confirmed. In fact, I think it's irrational to say that Bitcoin's looking long-term bearish and it's going to go to new lows this high up. We just simply haven't seen the breakouts yet to confirm that. In fact, we haven't even seen one breakdown. We're still in the same triangle formation that we've been in this entire peak. Back here, you would have said it was bullish. So why is it bearish now? We're still in the same formation. And guess what? That's a bullish triangle formation. That's a bullish pennant formation, We head upwards into it, we consolidate, we break to the upside. That's generally what bullish pennants do. So although there are things to be concerned about, there are things to be worried about, I think that overall, and again, I sound like a broken record, I don't think any of it's confirmed yet. It's just something we need to be cautious about. So that's kind of it. And the reason I wanted to make this video is because CPI will, give us a lot of information about, what's going to happen, because it's going to lead to a move. And so that move, you could be seeing on Bitcoin quite simply a breakout of this bullish pennant formation or a break downwards below it. It will be definitive, right? We might see a very strong move after CPI tomorrow. So 24 hours away, CPI, big stuff, guys. So we have to keep an eye on that, because that could be the definiting kind of thing of this entire structure that kind of shows us exactly where Bitcoin's going next in medium term, potentially even long term. So big stuff tomorrow. You don't want to miss CPI. You don't want to miss the effect it has on the market. Usually CPI has fake outs and everything like that. So probably, if you're not a trader, obviously you can trade it if you want to, but if you're not a trader, you should ignore the first few hours of price action to get an actual understanding of where the market's going to go in direction. Overall, I do recommend that people watch this triangle. Unfortunately, the top line of a triangle is not easily defined. But the bottom line of a triangle is very easily defined as this pink line here. We break that pink line, we'll be going downwards and testing this green support box. We break that support box, that's when we enter actual danger for Bitcoin, because that's when we're entering this previous range we saw from June 2022 all the way through to March 2023. So again, below 25.2k is not very good. Above 25.2k is basically just status quo. And that status quo is that, yeah, look, 4-year cycle looks okay, looks fine. That's the status quo. So with that said, guys, I do want to kind of flip over to a couple of things I've got in my YouTube comment section recently and answer a couple of questions. I posted a post here about 7 days ago, a week ago here, asking for any questions you guys have on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. I'm going to skim through a few of them. I don't want to get into too many of them because there's 17 comments here. It will take me a long period of time, but I'll answer maybe 3 of them here. So I'll just pick them out now and then I'll answer for you. So stick around, some interesting questions here for sure. Sparrowhawk says, what do you think about a new long-term spot entry? So he's basically asking if you hypothetically didn't buy Bitcoin in the zones that I recommended back last year around the average 19k price, where would you buy now? Look, this is a tough question. Obviously, it's not financial advice, and obviously, it's a tough question in the sense that it's higher than it was when I recommended buying. So I think that right now we're 50% higher than where my average price was. So anything right now is much riskier than what it was back then. So I don't want this to be kind of my reputation based on this random kind of comment, because obviously at some point you're just going to buy too high and get wrecked. But as of right now, I think that so long as we're above 25.2k, that's kind of the de-risking zone. So long as we're above there, Bitcoin actually looks fine from a macro perspective and it looks decent. So that's probably all I'll say on the topic. I'm not going to get too much into specifics. I've already released my buying plan. I spoke about it for 9 months straight in every video. So I think if you missed the buying plan there, perhaps you're new to the channel. It's unfortunate, but I will give you the information. Below 25.2k, that's where you de-risk. I think a weekly candle close below that level, that's bad. Above it, not too bad. So that's what I'll say there. Hi Wolf, what do you think about altcoin performance during this during this Bitcoin pullback? Is it going to get worse, or is there a chance of having a mini altcoin season? Right now, meme coins are starting to go crazy. It might be a sign or trigger for a mini altcoin season after the bull run for Bitcoin. Look, the thing with altcoin seasons and Bitcoin dominance and stuff like that is the only real data we have that's defined, that's definitive on it, is that during the actual bull market, as per the 4-year cycle theory, every 4 years, altcoins will outperform Bitcoin, and every other time, on a generalized basis, Bitcoin will outperform altcoins. you're right in saying that generally speaking, after a big move for Bitcoin and after sideways consolidation for Bitcoin, you generally see altcoins pump a little bit. However, we just haven't seen that reflected right now. People love to talk about the fact that we're seeing meme coin mania right now. I just simply disagree. It's just like maybe like one or two coins are popping off. That doesn't mean there's actual meme coin mania. If we're looking at Bitcoin dominance chart, we can see that Bitcoin dominance overall is pretty much barely moved down in the slightest. If we look in the weekly chart, it's barely moved down. It's moved down from 48%, 48.8% to 48.1%. So if that's what people consider meme coin mania, I don't know, I don't know what they're talking about, because the fact of the matter is Bitcoin dominance has been rising, and this small, minuscule correction it's seen is probably not indicative of anything yet. Now, look, so that question, honestly, to be honest with you, as an analyst, as someone who's studied charts for years, as someone who does this for a living, I can tell you right now, any prediction for when an altcoin season is going to come outside of a regular 4-year cycle bull market is complete speculation. But I will say, they generally happen after Bitcoin sees big moves and then consolidates. So if it's going to happen, it will probably happen now. But it's completely blind speculation, unfortunately. Let's see, we've got another question here. So to summarize what Superset Man, I've just clicked on his channel by accident. Let's go back to his question. What he's saying here is basically, okay, so let's just break it down. If Binance collapses, he says if Binance collapses or goes bankrupt or something like that, this would cripple the crypto space for years, and something like that could eventually happen. If such a black swan event happens, where do you think it will lead the crypto world? And shouldn't we already make steps towards that before it happens? Maybe you can make a discussion about this idea. So here's the thing, right? You're making a point about, blockchain being decentralized tech, and that exchanges are centralized, and exchanges are getting more and more centralized, and eventually the crypto space could be some overly centralized. But overall, you're basically saying if Binance collapses, it's going to really damage Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, where would we go from there? It's impossible to say. I think that overall, cryptocurrency will always survive, regardless of what happens. To vaguely answer your question, because it's kind of hard to answer, cryptocurrency will always survive, but it doesn't necessarily mean it will thrive in price action. You might find that the centralization that we're seeing is necessary for Bitcoin and crypto to go upwards in price, but not ideal from a fundamental perspective for what it's actually meant to be. That's the point you can make. You could also make the counter argument, which says that, well, Bitcoin's now correlating to gold, and hence it's finally fulfilled its role as digital gold, and that's happened during a period of centralization. You can make that counter argument. But overall, I think regardless of what happens in the world, regardless of what happens to crypto exchanges, regardless of what happens in everything, cryptocurrency will always exist. It's decentralized technology. There will always be people using it, but the price might not always go up. So you can use it for utility, transacting money here from there. That's kind of what its use case is. It's not made to continuously go up in price. It's made for being something of utility. So it will always have that utility regardless of where the price goes. But, you're right. Black swan events, major black swan events, and major, centralization, and all those things. And, there's certain things that definitely could destroy the price action, but it wouldn't destroy the utility of Bitcoin, I don't think, personally. Another question. What do you think about the current Bitcoin debate, the 4-year cycle theory versus Wave 5 playing out by the end of 2023? And by Wave 5, he's referring to, I'm assuming he's referring to Elliott Wave theory that suggests Bitcoin's going to be going down with that low kind of 3K, 4K region. Well, I'll tell you this right now. Elliott Wave theory is very, very speculative, and 4-year cycle theory is very, very well tested and very, very proven. That's your simple answer. If you get 10 people in a room, you show them the same chart, you tell them to do Elliott Wave theory, chances are a few of them will come up with the same chart, the rest of them won't. Very speculative. What constitutes a wave? Who knows, right? It's subjective from analyst to analyst. Yes, there are basic guidelines, but overall, it's just like Wyckoff, right? It's very rough, it's very subjective. What I can say is that the 4-year cycle theory is not subjective, it's an objective trend. And you should always trust objective trends above speculative trends, especially considering the fact that Elliott Wave isn't a trend, it's a market pattern. This is a trend. The trend is your friend until it ends. Market patterns don't work 100% of the time. The trend does until it doesn't. So 4-year cycle is definitely the stronger argument for sure from a logical perspective, of course. What is your estimated top for Ethereum during the next bull cycle? Is it possible that Ethereum could flip Bitcoin? Unfortunately, it's very, very difficult to come up with long-term Bitcoin price targets Ethereum price targets because there's not enough data, simply. And even with Bitcoin, you've seen my Bitcoin price targets for the next cycle. They're rough. They're rough, man. I think the target was 182K. That was from a formula, but look, the range for that, the range for error is 15% from the downside to the upside, and Ethereum's had one less cycle than Bitcoin. The range you're going to be estimating is going to be so large, but it's going to become completely useless. Now, look, I might look into it. I might see what I can find coming up to the bull cycle, but as of right now, I think that's just an irrelevant question. I don't think there's enough data on Ethereum to accurately predict where the top would be at all. You could roughly predict it, very, very roughly predict it, but it wouldn't be relevant. Do you think that Ethereum could flip Bitcoin? It's one of those things, on paper it could, but I don't think it will happen. No, I think Bitcoin is very, very strongly the face of cryptocurrency. I don't think it will ever be flipped by Ethereum. No, I don't. I've expanded on that in the past. I'll expand on it again in the future when the question becomes more relevant, and I'll certainly do that because that will become a very pressing question. During every single bull market, we see that question come up over and over and over again. I answer it every time. And we'll get into that a lot more when it becomes more relevant. As of right now, it's a waste of time discussing it. If Bitcoin was a gun, what gun would it be? Probably a musket, right? A musket, because muskets take a long time to reload. And if we're going by 4-year cycle standards, technically speaking, you could say in this metaphor, Bitcoin reloads every 4 years, and obviously 4 years is a very very long reload time. So Bitcoin would probably be a musket if it was a gun. That's my look. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section, I guess. But that's probably what I guess off the top of my head there. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good answer actually. There are reputable YouTubers such as Data Dash, Benjamin Cohen, Crypto Savvy, Cheeky Crypto, etc. These guys are using compelling arguments to suggest Bitcoin is in an extended bear market rally. My question is, how do you refute them? I refute them through every argument I've made in my videos before. My friend, that's how I refute them. Look, people are gonna have different opinions on the market. People are gonna have different theories in the market, and I do my best to kind of debunk them. I've actually, directly responded to a few people on multiple occasions. Look, overall, I think that the basis of the general bearish argument is not supported. I think that it's very speculative. I think it's based on correlations that are constantly shifting. It's based on correlations that have reached new lows. And I think that, the trend is your friend until it ends. The 4-year cycle is the trend. We've seen nothing but it play out. And, as of right now, until it's invalid, which we can determine before it happens, there's no reason to believe it won't play out again. People like to, jump at the most kind of first impression compelling arguments. Like, oh, if you hear the phrase recession's going to drag Bitcoin down, it sounds really good on paper, but you look into it and it's actually really not that simple. And I constantly try to prove that on the channel. And unfortunately, I get new people coming in all the time, and they haven't heard my arguments before. But I do recommend you listen to some of my arguments here. It's not that simple. I promise you, it's not that simple. Even the basis of the argument is incorrect, because the whole idea that traditional markets are going to drag Bitcoin down rely on Bitcoin being reliant on traditional markets, which for the first time in the last 6 months, we've seen the fact that Bitcoin is not reliant on traditional markets to move upwards, right? We've seen the largest Q1 Bitcoin's ever seen, besides, I think, one occasion, right? In a time in which traditional markets have moved sideways, and we've seen it correlate to gold for the first time in the entire price history of Bitcoin. So we've already seen deviations from what would have to be true for this bearish argument to exist. We've also seen, for the first time in the entire price history of the S&P 500, the Federal Reserve raising interest rates as the S&P 500 goes downwards. We've never seen that before. And so to act like it's going to act normally in circumstances we've never seen before is speculative, to say the least. It's guessing. And here's the thing. There's no guessing involved with the 4-year cycle theory. It's a trend. There's no guessing. I'm not guessing that it's going to continue playing out. It's going to continue playing out until it doesn't. With the bearish argument, which is based on recession and based on traditional markets, it's guessing. It's guessing that things are going to continue happening like they've done in the past, vaguely, when there's very, very different environments in the society, the economy, the market, whatever. There's different environments all around. There's no different environments when it comes to charting patterns. There's no different environments. That's what it is. It's a fact. Every 4 years this happens. That's a factual statement. Right? You can't say the same thing about the bearish argument, unfortunately. Now, I'm not saying they're not going to be right. I personally think they won't, of course. Otherwise, I wouldn't take the views I do. But I'm not saying it's impossible. They certainly could be correct. But the point is, I will stand there. If I'm proven wrong, I will happily sit there and say that I chose the argument that I deemed to be more likely to play out. And that's all you can do as an analyst. You choose the best argument. It's never guaranteed to work. If it does, cool. If it doesn't, awesome. That's the game. That's the game. It's just like trading. Take dozens of trades a week. Not all of them are profitable. Not even, maybe 70% of them are profitable. I've had weeks where I've lost, the vast majority of my trades, and I've still made money because on the trades that I made money on, I made much more than I lost. Nothing's certain, guys. It's all probabilities, and it's all kind of, as I said, it's all probabilities. And that's what I'd say to that. Look, I think the bullish argument is stronger for sure. I think the bullish argument is supported by more data rather than speculation. And that's probably why I'd say the bullish argument is probably better at this point in time. And that's long term, of course. Can Bitcoin be banned completely, making it illegal to hold and transact Bitcoin and go to zero? Look, that's a question that people have been asking for a long period of time. Bitcoin can be banned, certainly. It can certainly be banned. But if it was banned, it wouldn't go to zero because people are always going to use Bitcoin, right? In the scenario that Bitcoin was banned, that would imply that governments, especially in the Western world, have taken totalitarian action. And during that period of time, you're going to see people deviate from the guidelines of the law. If there's totalitarianism in the West, I would consider that a complete and direct attack on values of liberty that we have in the West and freedom in the West. So if they ban Bitcoin, they ban cryptocurrency, it's a direct attack on the individual, in my personal opinion. It's a direct attack on our freedom. And, I'm not going to say I'm going to commit any crimes. I'm certainly not saying that on my channel, but I can tell you right now, not everyone's going to comply. And this is what I said before. Bitcoin, regardless of where the price goes, it's always going to have utility. Not everyone is going to comply, okay? So it will always hold some value, and it will always have utility. The price would never go to zero. It doesn't work like that. Price of Bitcoin can never go to zero just based on the Bitcoin that's been lost. But even then, there will be people who use Bitcoin, and trust me, most of them will be very, very wealthy. So, I don't think, they certainly can ban Bitcoin. That certainly would affect Bitcoin. But the way we're going right now, we're seeing institutions accumulate Bitcoin. I don't think the governments would want to insult institutions like that who pay massive amounts in tax and political donations. I don't think it's logical for governments to ban Bitcoin. Perhaps they could heavily centralize Bitcoin and heavily regulate Bitcoin, but banning it outright just seems ridiculous. I personally don't see why they would do that at this point in time. That's my personal opinion, guys. So, guys, I'll look at a few things before we end the video. First and foremost, BitGet exchange, 5 times lower fees than Binance, cheapest exchange in the cryptocurrency market from what I've seen personally. Non-KYC, sign up using my referral link and you get a 15% trading fee discount for life in this exchange. Guys, I'm telling you right now, genuinely, no advertisement, no bullshit. This is the best exchange I've encountered on the cryptocurrency market, and I highly recommend you use it if you're a trader. That's it. So go ahead and sign up using my referral link in the description below if you're interested. Crypto Academy course, if you want to learn how to trade, this is the place you can do it, or one of the places you can do it. Developed by myself and Mega World Crypto. We made this course last year. It's 10 units. You can read all about it on the website below and decide whether it's good for you. We've got about 100 students right now, and you can become one of them very easily by sending us an email, and the email address is down here on the website. And then finally, guys, the VIP group. If you're interested in becoming a VIP member, you can do so. You can sign up for 100 USD, 3 months of membership. And all about information in the description below. We've released our trading results for the last 6 months on VIP. You can see every single win, every single loss we've had, and you can make an educated decision for yourself. Thanks, guys, for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.